But in saying all of that, it was definitely also a harsh learning curve for me in a lot of ways. And hello YouTube, it's me Rosie back here on the Not Even French channel. So today's video is a little bit different. It is, I guess, what you would call a story time. And I really wanted to tell you guys about the time that I interned for a huge French luxury giant, and I worked for them as part of my master's degree. But whoa, what an experience. It was such a life-changing experience in so many ways. The company in question is LVMH, so Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy Group. So if you think about basically any major luxury brand aside from Chanel or Hermes, they probably have a pretty good chance of owning them. So they are the group that owns Dior, Givenchy, Marc Jacobs, Moet & Chandon and Hennessy, Dom Perignon, Veuve Clicquot, Makeup Forever, Sephora. I mean, they own all the things, and it was absolutely insane when I landed this job opportunity. Small town New Zealand girl that grew up in a bubble and didn't know anything about the world. My gosh, it was such an induction into the French culture, French companies, French attitude, like French luxury. So I'm gonna kind of spill the tea on what it was really like to work there and everything I learned from the experience and the major mistakes that I made and all of that kind of stuff. And before we get started, I just wanted to clarify that when I moved to France, I didn't speak a word of French. I literally knew how to say bonjour and merci, and that was it. 23 years old, adult, had never learned a second language. The internship was completely in English. However, whenever you're working in a French company, what you realize pretty quickly is that a lot of the cafe conversations and a lot of the meetings and being able to pick up on subtle things and discussions and little side conversations and that kind of stuff, it's all in French. And I wish I could almost turn back time and do the whole thing again, speaking at least some French. If you're thinking about going to France to study and intern, yeah, I would definitely recommend just at least having the fundamentals. Which brings me to the sponsor of today's video, which is Lingoda. So you guys know that I love Lingoda in general, and I've done a full video actually really recently talking about the Lingoda Marathon. It's actually going to be the last ever Lingoda Marathon. So it's an incredible opportunity to basically boost your fluency, immerse yourself in the French language with native professors every single day. Learn anytime, anywhere from your laptop, followed a very structured framework, choose your lessons, download your lessons. Like, it's really well done as an online French language learning platform. So you've got two options. The first is the full marathon. The full marathon is basically 30 French lessons per month for 3 months. So you have to show up every single day. It takes an insane amount of dedication, but you watch your language level like whoo if you do it. It's absolutely incredible. I've had quite a few subscribers do that one. And if you successfully complete the marathon, basically to celebrate your dedication, you will get a 100% refund. Then you've got another option, which is the half marathon, which would be 15 French courses per month for 3 months, and you can earn up to a 50% refund. So I'm going to link my video to this with all the details up here and in the description box down below so you can check it out. In the video I did say that the gates were gonna close on September 9th, and because the demand has been so huge, Lingoda have actually pushed it out to September 19th. So you have some time now to sign up to the marathon. You haven't missed out.
So all you guys need to do is head to the website. I'm going to link it down below, and you're going to choose whether you're going to in fact do the half marathon or the full marathon, and then you choose which language you want to study. We've been talking about French, but you can actually do English and Spanish as well, or even German and business English. And how it works is that you'll pay your first month up front. Now, I actually have a €10 discount code for you, TALK80, and then you'll pay payment 2 and payment 3 when they come up respectively in October and November. Of course, if you complete the half marathon, you are eligible to get a 50% refund, and if you complete the full marathon, you'll get a 100% refund.
So honestly, if you guys have been considering wanting to learn French and really boost your fluency and become conversational, do it. This is such a great opportunity, and I hope you have loads of fun. Anyways, let's get back to the video and talk about this internship experience at LVMH. I guess the first question would be, how did I get this job? So how it works when you have a master's program like I had is you get into the master's program first. It was a very competitive process. I think there were about 500 applicants and they chose 25 of us. So I was really lucky to be selected. It was my master's in international human resource management. So getting an internship is part of your master's degree. Like, you can't graduate unless you find one, but it is on you to find it. You do get help from your school, so they would send us lots of offers and that kind of thing, but it's the offers that everyone's seen anyway, so there's no guarantee that you're going to get it. For LVMH, actually what I did is I looked at the CAC 40, which is basically the top French companies on the share market, the top 40. I was like, okay, these are big companies with an international presence. They're probably going to have teams working at an international level and maybe have some opportunities in English. So I went on the website on basically every single one of those sites, and I was looking for these apprentissage or internship offers, and I was looking for the ones that were either written in English. I was like, oh, that's a good sign. Or I'd look at the French ones as well, and I basically couldn't even read French, so I would just control F anglais and see what it said. And if it said like this role will be in English, or like you have to absolutely master English and French is a bonus, I was like, yes, this is for me. So I found a role, and basically very traditional application process. I applied on the website. I got an email for a first interview, and I explained that I was still in New Zealand. So I had a first phone interview with who would be my future manager. It went really well. I think I probably stood out quite a bit because I didn't really care about the industry, which is, I know it can be important, but I know when I was interviewing my replacement, there were so many people who were like, I love Louis Vuitton and I love handbags and I love that. And like, I didn't say anything like that. I was like, I love the mission of this role. I've got a few years experience in HR already. This is how I would do it. This is how I would attack the role. Long story short, I had another second interview via Skype, and then I received the offer before I even landed in France. So I knew that I had my internship. I knew that I had a salary that would be coming in before I even landed in the country, which was such a huge relief. And it really helped regarding, like, you know, apartment, bank accounts, all that kind of stuff. So the role itself was pretty incredible. It was in part of the HR team that was really looking after the development of the most senior leaders in the company and top executives. And so, for example, you'd run like a 1-week seminar on being more strategic, or a welcome to group LVMH, you know, and allowing them to discover the entire ecosystem or the brands and really get to know the group. Or there may be a training on how to be a successful female in leadership and senior leadership in this company. Like, there were all sorts of different trainings, and they were often residential. And so they would fly from all around the world and meet in Paris, and we would run these trainings. And my role was to basically organize and coordinate a lot of that. I was really the one sending out the invitations, creating the agenda, creating the little booklets with everyone's photos and stuff for networking, creating, I guess, like the packs that they had on their tables during the seminar. I would be coordinating with the speakers and the coaches to collect their slides, collect their videos, make sure that everything was, you know, perfectly in order and ready to run through for the day. There'd also be quite experiential kind of things happening in the seminar. So we might go to like the Louis Vuitton atelier to learn about how, you know, how certain, like, the suitcases or handbags get designed or handcrafted or that kind of thing. Or you might even have like a creative open up session where you have a professional singer come in and do an activity with the group, and it, you know, they have to sing in harmony, and it teaches them about teamwork and all of that kind of stuff. All of those little details, I guess, that come together to making this experience work. And I knew from very, very early on that it was probably one of the most incredible opportunities that I would ever have in my life, because I was staying in incredible French chateaus. I was exposed to food and like a level of luxury that's unthinkable, and I don't think I'll ever experience again, to be honest. I was able to learn and watch the materials and look at the sessions and experience what these top leaders of this amazing company were learning. So that was incredible. And I was able to work with people who were incredibly intelligent, fiercely intelligent, professional, had a sense of detail and excellence. So I definitely grew so much in this role. But in saying all of that, it was definitely also a harsh learning curve for me in a lot of ways. And I remember at times just feeling so out of my depth and really like the odd one out. I remember going there and just being so stressed out over what to wear, and I turned up like looking like I worked in a bank, you know, like pencil skirt, white shirt, blazer, very classic, very inoffensive, and that worked quite well. But Oh my gosh, honestly, the level of fashion there, the shoes, the handbags, the outfits, I learned pretty quickly that I would never be able to keep up. I was earning minimum wage and I didn't have much money when I went to France. I made do basically, and that was part of the culture there that was quite tough, is that huge emphasis on how you look and how you present yourself, and the brands and the money. And a lot of people working there were from very wealthy backgrounds and very wealthy French families, and it's like that in a lot of French family owned companies, because it's often like the niece, the nephew, the godson, the whoever of this important person. You're surrounded by people that come from such extreme wealth, and they dress beautifully basically. I also remember I was just so fresh. Like, I just remember I just embarrassed myself so many times just to not know the social codes and what's done, and I probably came across as like really rough around the edges, which I am. I remember one of the first questions my new manager asked me was like, oh, which metro station did you get off at? And I was like, oh, I think it's called Champs-Élysées or something like that. And she's like, and I was like, yeah, it's just that one there, like the line 13. And she was like, Champs-Élysées. And I was like, yup. Like, oh my gosh, looking back now, I'm like, oh my gosh, she must have thought, who is this girl? But anyway, I think I just sort of went in there as well thinking that it would be exactly like Devil's Wears Prada. It wasn't exactly like that. Like, I don't think people there were particularly like nasty or mean, but there were a lot of characters there. There was a lot of personality. There was a lot of ego. I guess as well, like at the intern level, we kind of built these senior leaders up, and they all kind of had these characters and stuff. Like the managers that we were reporting to were really senior and successful people, and there were a lot of lovely, calm and nice and generous people, and very intelligent people as well. And then there were some people, I guess, that were very political, kind of sharks, you know. I think you get that in every company though. And there were definitely people that would take their stress out on you. So, you know, I saw a lot of interns like getting shouted at, barked at, crying, that kind of thing. And I think as well, because like in a lot of French companies, there's such a sense of excellence there, and they're always pushing you to do better. And there's a lot of sort of, you know, critique of your work. It comes from a good place. It comes so that, you know, you do things differently and you think differently and you do better and better and better. But every single thing you deliver is kind of never good enough. So that can be misinterpreted, I think, as well as kind of like, oh, like the scary manager that hates me and hates my work kind of thing. Especially when you're a young intern, you can't take things personally, because when they're pulling apart your work and crossing things out and saying, no, I don't like that, I don't like that, I don't like that, it's almost part of the culture of the company like that. So it's kind of how it is. So let's talk about some of the things that I learned from working there, and I learned about the French culture and the French way of work. So very early on, I learned about the sacred network. Basically, as the story goes, we were on a conference call with some top HR leaders, and we were talking to them about one of our programs. And one of the ladies, I heard it straight away, had a Kiwi accent, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's a New Zealander here, a female, like in a senior HR position. What a role model. Like I want to talk to her. Like, you want to know them, you want to know like, how did you get there, and what's your story and all that kind of stuff. So basically, I had her name and her contact details because I organized the call and everything. I just flicked her a quick email afterwards saying, I'd love to have a quick 15-minute chat with you, hear about your story, hear about your HR career as a Kiwi in this group that we're both working in. Now, my manager the next week saw an appointment in my calendar and was like, what's this appointment that you have with, you know, X lady? And I was like, I told her and explained. And she was like, close the door. And I was like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? And basically I learned a lesson that day that you are not allowed to access someone's network. So that person was in her network. So you're not allowed to access someone's network without them connecting you, if that makes sense. Like, the way I should have done it is asked her permission to please write an email connecting us for a call. Like, I didn't really have the right to reach out and contact this lady directly, for example. Another time I got in trouble was when I sent out an email and I had a list of people to put in carbon copy and CC on the email, and I didn't put them in hierarchical order. I did not even know that putting people in hierarchical order was, like, it never crossed my mind ever. and they got in trouble for not doing that, and I was told like, oh, this person's going to be very offended that you put their direct report before them in the email, like in their email address order. Like, she actually called the person in advance before they, you know, had time to open and react to the email, and warned them that her silly intern had made a mistake. I had put people in the wrong order in the email, basically. So I learned a lot in France around hierarchy and politics and ego and this kind of thing, especially at those senior levels. It's quite strong. I also remember my manager really reassuring me one time after a meeting. You know, the French love to debate, and they love to share their opinion and discuss and thrash it out, and it's not personal at all, and they would literally be like raising their voices, going hard. I mean, it wasn't aggressive or violent, but it was, for me, it was rude. It's not the way I would ever speak to a boss, for example. I guess like my manager obviously saw my face one day, and she kind of reassured me. She's like, we love each other, like we have so much respect for each other, it's just the way we work. So that was also a huge learning thing for me. I've talked a lot already about the French level of excellence, but what goes hand in hand with that is feedback, and I learned very quickly in France that negative feedback comes first and positive feedback is quite rare, and it's almost like painful for your manager to give you really positive feedback without saying but, and this is how you can improve, kind of thing. I remember at the end she was like, you were a superstar, like one of the best interns I've ever had, like, and she was full of praise. She was like, you're creative, you're this, you're that, and I was just like, whoa. I was so touched, but I was so confused. What I would say is that the negative feedback that she did give me, this is another learning about the French culture, is that I wasn't visible enough. I didn't network hard enough. I didn't build relationships with senior leaders. After that faux pas I made with like tapping into her network and stuff, I was kind of scared. I didn't want to go too far. I didn't want to come across like I was schmoozing or using the position to my advantage to get to know senior people. So I was like, I'm just going to get in, do a really good job, put my head down, work hard, and that will be enough. But it's not enough in France, and it's not just at LVMH. Like, there's a huge thing around networking relationships. You have to build them. Like, work happens through people in France, and people can block work happening, so you have to network. It's really, really important, and that advice was actually really good. It set me up for success and, you know, for the rest of my career in France. In some ways I wish I could kind of do the internship again, like knowing French, having more money, like knowing the social codes. But hey, this is what the learning's all about, and it's probably one of the reasons I started my Not Even French channel. These experiences, I wish I had someone to say, hey, FYI, working in France is going to be like this. And, you know, it's just part of the reason, I guess, that I ended up doing what I'm doing with this channel. And it really set me up for my career in France and just played such a huge role in my story. And I suppose one of your questions might be, well, why didn't you stay? Basically, it just wasn't really the right time for me. By the end of the year, after being incredibly overworked in terms of my internship, my master's thesis, and everything still being in English, I just didn't have time to do French lessons, which I know is ridiculous. So by the end of the year, I did not know how to work in French. I could not have crafted like professional documents in written French, so I could only target English speaking roles. And then for my style, like, I wanted a job where I didn't feel like I had to put on a face, go to work. Like, I'm not this girl that, you know, wants to invest all of her money in designer brands and wear stilettos to work. I'm the kind of girl that wants to wear like cool t-shirts, jeans, sneakers, like that kind of vibe. So basically I targeted just two places that I wanted to work at the time. The first was Makeup Forever, and the second was Sephora. I just felt like they were the places that I could relate the most, that seemed modern and young and cool and international, and both of them just didn't really have anything. There just wasn't that junior entry-level role in English. I did have a very hot lead for a whiskey brand in Scotland. There was a recruiter there who was very, very keen to hire me, but when I went all that way to get to Paris, I wanted to stay in Paris, which I think most people understood. And I don't drink alcohol, so working for a whiskey brand wasn't sort of like, you know, my dream come true kind of thing. I honestly don't really regret it. After that, I went into a French startup. It was tech, it was casual, it was cool. I learned a lot. And then I springboarded to L'Oreal, which was a really nice mix of like prestigious French company, but with the modern, innovative, kind of forward-thinking outlook, which for me felt like a really nice mix between the two, and that's where I had almost 4 years of my career in France, and that's where I really, I guess, thrived the most. So everything worked out really, really well in the end. But anyway, guys, thanks for letting me share my story. I hope that you found it interesting. I hope that it kind of shed a little bit of light onto some of my experiences that I've had in France. And if you have any questions whatsoever, don't hesitate to ask me down below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time on the Not Even French channel. Bisous and à bientôt!